I've been wanting to talk about the music in One Piece for a while now because I might be a little obsessed. I was struggling with what aspect to talk about though, since there are so many directions to go in. This show has so much music, and so many different kinds of music, and some of the music still being used now goes back to the very first season. Then I saw this video about reframing the Nothing Happened scene with Zoro. The creator, Melody, explains how she doesn't like the choice of the music being a track called the very, very, very strongest, because she sees it as music of triumph, and explains that's why she ultimately prefers the manga over the anime, because she can make her own decisions of what to feel. And fair. Music is designed to make you feel something. That's one of the reasons it's used in media. But the problem with her statement here is not so much the statement itself, but the fact that the music cued there is not actually the very, very, very strongest. It's actually a track called Luffy's Fierce Attack. I cannot take credit for noticing this, actually. Someone pointed it out in the comments, and I cannot find that comment now. So sorry to whoever that was. I would love to credit you. If you happen to find this, please give yourself a shout out. Here is that music from the Nothing Happened scene. And here's the track called The Very, Very, Very Strongest. There are some reasons Melody mixed these up, and that I have too in other points of the show. They do sound pretty similar. After this revelation, I started paying attention to where the very, very, very strongest and Luffy's Fierce Attack are used in the show. Specifically, the Wano Arc, because that's the arc I happened to be watching at the time. And lo and behold, I found myself mixing the two themes up. And not only do they sound similar, but it seems like they are both used in similar contexts. So I started to dig deeper, and then I wrote the script to show how these two themes are used to represent strength, and why I think both themes actually enhance Oda's own ideas surrounding what it means to be strong in the One Piece world, rather than detracting from his intentions. Before we dive into some of the context of where these themes are used, however, let's look at some of the musical traits of them to try and surmise why it's so easy to mix them up when you're not paying close attention. The titles of these themes are long, so throughout the rest of the video, I will refer to the very, very, very strongest as just strongest, and Luffy's Fierce Attack as Luffy, just to save time and everyone's sanity. Let's first consider some of the themes' musical similarities. Structure, for one. Both themes have essentially 3 parts to them, and the 3 parts are related. After a one-measure introduction in both themes, Part A relies on a similar motive, the idea of a long note followed by 2 short notes. This motive is used more in Strongest than Luffy, but both melodies are based on that similar rhythmic idea. Similarly, Part B of both themes has this 8th rest followed by 2 16th note rhythmic motive. It is used more prominently in Luffy, but Strongest does have it as well. And then part C in both themes is a slower section, slower in that the notes are longer as the tempo stays consistent. Part C in both also use brass instruments melodically. Strongest uses horns, also violins, but the horns are there, and Luffy uses trumpet. After this part C, the themes do divert. Luffy ends with part C, whereas Strongest actually follows a chiastic structure, which is normally a literary term, but fits here. For those who don't know, chiastic structure is when a form reverses itself once you get to the middle. For instance, in this theme, we have A, B, C, B, A. So we start and end with the same theme. But it is still 3 different sections. The B and A sections just show up twice to make the whole theme longer than Luffy. Other than the structure and melodic similarities within the structure, both have a very marcato, staccato, march-like feel. It sounds more accented, but both transcriptions use staccato markings, but some kind of short, precise accompaniment is going on, regardless of how it's actually marked in the sheet music. There's also a heavy emphasis on beat 1 that adds to this march idea. These factors, along with the brass, are heroic musical tropes. If you've been with my channel a while, you've heard me talk about tropes before. If you haven't, you can check out this video for more on the background of those if you are interested. As far as other similarities, in general, the melodies follow a similar kind of contour. Scalar motion up, followed by a big leap down, and then a big leap back up, in part A, for instance. Honestly, I was expecting to find some more obvious similarities than these. I thought the themes might actually share the same melodic content at points, but none of it is verbatim, just similar. They're even presented in different keys. They are closely related keys of A minor and D minor, but still different. The similarities that are here, as well as the context that I'll talk about in a bit, do seem to warrant why they are easy to mix up. But there is still a question of why even have 2 themes if they're going to function the same and sound close enough that they are easily mixed up anyways. The length of each theme might account for some of the interchangeability. When thinking about the purpose and function of music in TV specifically, having themes that can cut at multiple places and still make sense is very helpful. TV shows will reuse music, and for good reason. Writing and recording music is expensive and time-consuming, which means a lot of music is reused from episode to episode. However, both of these themes are written in such a manner that it is easy to cut them at several different places, meaning they can be different lengths to fit into different length scenes. In fact, if we go back to the Nothing Happened scene, we can see it actually uses only parts A and C of Luffy, cutting out the B section entirely to fit the length of the cue, yet still end with finality. This reusing of material for parts of the show that haven't been created yet presents another issue. As I mentioned in the introduction to this video, some of the music that is still used in One Piece was introduced in the very first season. That means when Koei Tanaka and Shiro Hamaguchi wrote the music, there is no way they had all the future connotations of the music planned out, since the whole story hadn't even been written by Oda yet, let alone animated. That's why a lot of TV music in general feels more like a bunch of vibes to choose from that are then placed at specific points in the show. This could also account for why the titles don't always fit the exact context in which they are used, As we will see, Luffy's first attack is rarely used when Luffy is attacking. This sort of vibe of victory that Melody noticed is a valid reason why she didn't like the choice of music there. Although hopefully once we get to the context, you'll see that I think these themes, both of them, really relate more to strength than necessarily victory. That being said, I do think both Strongest and Luffy do a good job of representing strength in the show. The One Piece soundtrack wiki even notes that both are often used in battle scenes. Both seem to relate to strength and enhance the idea of what strength means. Spoilers, it's not just about battles. And there's reasons these two themes are both used to represent strength, and not just Luffy's strength, despite the title of the one. So, while all the contexts of a given theme for a TV show are not known when a composer first writes it, considering the scene the composer first wrote a theme for, i.e. the first scene, might shed some light on the original intentions for a particular theme. I wasn't about to go and rewatch 1,000 episodes to figure out every time these themes occurred, or even the first instance. I mean, I'd love to, but I have boring adult obligations that make that unfeasible. However, the good people of Reddit shared that the first time Strongest is used is in episode 267 when the train is about to ram Eni's lobby. Disclaimer, I watched the dub. Come after me if you want, I don't care. But just a fair warning, I will be using the dub for the clips.
Hey Frog, see fence? Smash!
What?
Get off! Get her, get off! Get her!
That's his plan? Does he realize what's gonna happen when we run into that fence?
Impossible! That sea train?
It's flying!
Oh no! We're gonna die!
What? But I don't want to die!
Mommy, this way! I'll save you! Fall into my
Shut
arms!
up, you idiot! I've got enough problems right now! Zoro, you better have thought long and hard about how you're gonna land this thing!
Of course I have.
Ah.
We fall.
Get off!
I hate you!
We'll find out if luck's on our side soon enough.
We do get the entire theme here, which would make sense if it was in fact composed for this scene. Why it is called the very, very, very strongest is a bit odd. Could it refer to the strength of the frog? Or maybe the gate? Although probably not, since they do smash through it. Could it refer to the strength of Zoro for even attempting this? I don't know, but I do think later instances, at least in Wano, fit the title a little better. As far as the first instance of Luffy, the people of the internet seem less sure about when that was, although there was some consensus that it was episode 257, which is shortly before the first instance of Strongest. If the first time these two themes occurred is in fact this close together in the history of the show, that is another reason why they might get easily mixed up. Where in episode 257? Well, pretty close to the end, about 21 minutes and 35 seconds. It appears right after Soga King shoots a Marine soldier that found Frankie and Sanji on the sea train. We get half of each section of the theme here. Normally there are repeats, but those repeats are cut out. Again, I'm not sure if this is actually the first instance of the theme, but if it is, I have no idea why it's called Luffy's Fierce Attack, since Luffy isn't even here, and Soga King, definitely not Usopp, just attacked someone.
Who the hell are you?
Your friend told me everything.
I understand that you're here to rescue a certain mademoiselle. That alone is reason enough for me to join your cause. My weapons are at your disposal. My name is Sniper King!
Please feel free to correct me in the comments if you know of an earlier instance of either of these themes. Assuming these are the original context, though, the titles make no sense, and the strongest doesn't seem related to any aspect of strength, although the intro of Luffy's fierce attack does to some extent, as Soga King finds his courage. However, when looking at both themes in the Wano Arc, and I would argue in the Nothing Happens scene, the themes do represent strength and not always physical strength, which I think is a big part of One Piece. I'll use the Wano Arc to show how these themes are representative of strength. Why the Wano Arc? Well, as I said before, because it's the arc I was in the middle of watching when I got the idea for this video, so I was able to log instances while simply enjoying the show for the first time. That being said, I may have missed some, but there are enough here to give some generalizations about uses and how they enhance the idea of strength in One Piece. This isn't going to be an overview of the whole Wano Arc, again, adult responsibilities. I'm looking specifically at episodes 972 to 1082, and skipping all the recap filler episodes. Story-wise, this is roughly the climax of the Oden story flashback episodes through the very end of Wano. Overall, these themes are rarely used in the case of actual fighting, and even more rarely used during Luffy's attacks. We do have some that are setting up attacks, but when the fighting is fiercest, generally we're not getting these themes. Also within these episodes, strongest seems generally associated with Oden and his retainer, whereas Luffy is used wherever it seems like a good idea to use that type of music, including sometimes relating to Oden or his retainer. Also in these episodes, there are only 2 instances where the music is actually used while Luffy is attacking. There are fewer instances of strongest, so let's start there. I counted 5 times this theme is used, in part or whole, throughout these 100 or so episodes. Here is a handy chart. I'll go through each one so you don't need to worry too much about reading the chart, but if you want to pause the video for your own reference, go ahead. I'll move on in 3, 2, 1. The first occurrence of strongest is in episode 972 at around 10 minutes and 18 seconds. This is an instance that does represent physical strength, but I would argue also strength of will. Oden is in the middle of fighting Kaido. He just got thrown pretty far, but as he gets back up again, the music starts. Oden then says, "I will see this through," and pictures his friends and family. Then he lands his legendary blow on Kaido that leaves the scar, later exploded by Luffy and his allies.
Kozuki Oden. I've been waiting to meet someone like you.
Cannot falter now. I will see this through. Just a bit more. Let's go! What? Paradise Polska!
We do get the entire theme here, and I think how it fits into the idea of strength is pretty self-explanatory. Oden has managed to pierce Kaido, which makes him appear stronger than Kaido, or the very, very, very strongest. In picturing his friends, we also see Oden's strength comes from the people he loves, which gives him a purpose for fighting. Although Kaido eventually defeats him, albeit with a cheap trick, Oden's strength is on full display in this scene. The next occurrence of Strongest isn't until episode 1005 at about 4 minutes in. In this instance, we just get the opening, which then cuts to the third section with the more legato melody. It's a great example of how the structure of the theme makes those necessary cuts for timing seem really smooth. The fact that this is the next time the theme is used is really cool. The fact that it's more than 30 episodes apart, I'm not sure with production time how intentional this necessarily was. If it was intentional, huge shout out to the music team for keeping track of that, because in this scene, Odin's retainers do the same two-sword style attack that Odin did 20 years earlier and hit Kaido in the exact same spot. Once again, this is a moment of physical strength on full display, and that strength stemming from love. Love for their lost lord, their new young lord, and their country. The next instance of Strongest is in episode 1023 at about 6 minutes 30 seconds. We get the whole theme here. This is a very different context from earlier. Chopper and the other doctors have just finished the antidote for the freezing, but have not been able to distribute it yet. Hyoguro, the old guy Luffy rescued from the prison, made short work of a lot of Kaido's men, but he is now entirely frozen. One of the allies is poised with a sword ready to kill him, but he can't do it, even though Hyoguro is telling him to. In fact, none of them will deliver the blow. Although the same guy is ready to do it later in the episode, but Chopper stops him just in time to say the antidote is ready. Like the train scene, this feels more like a use of musical vibes than any deeper meaning. I can try to read into it a bit. One could say perhaps it represents Hyoguro's strength of will in choosing to die in order for the rest of his allies to live, or maybe it is the strength of the others in not listening to him. Or is it just one instance where the music does not fit? I'm interested to hear any of your thoughts on the use of the theme here, so drop those in the comments.
I knew he had a reputation, but I wasn't expecting this.
He didn't just resist the virus, he used its power to wreck our troops!
I see why the land of Wano has remained untouched for so many years. It's an island of monsters.
Oh!
Next up is episode 1037 at 4 minutes 47 seconds. We return to the Wano natives with a scene of Momo beginning to find his strength. Momo has been captured and is hung up at Queen's party. He yells out that there's no way Luffy will lose, flashing back to him remembering Luffy saying that, even as we, the viewers, watch Luffy sinking to the bottom of the ocean. Momo is putting his faith in Luffy's strength and his promise to not lose. He is also showing his own strength by giving hope to everyone. Although he is physically weak here, he is showing a deeper level of strength and courage with his actions.
Momo! Tell them! Please, Momo! There's no way I'm losing! I will defeat Kaido!
There's something else! Luffy said! He will not lose!
The final instance in these episodes is episode 1047 at about 17 minutes. And once again, we have part of Odin's retainer. This time it is Dogstorm, who is in rough shape, being attacked by the mammoth guy. Don't remember his name, sorry. Right before the music starts, he says, "We'll avenge our fallen lord and save Wano," then throws the mammoth. As he starts talking again, the music starts. Dogstorm talks about how long they've been preparing, and then he transforms into his beast form again. Then Dogstorm says, "If we must sacrifice our lives to win, then we are ready." Here we again have physical strength on display, and a connection back to Odin and loved ones as a source of that strength. Dogstorm is ready to die for the cause, showing physical strength and strength of resolve.
For 2 decades, we've asked ourselves, are we still Lord Odin's samurai? Here is the answer.
I've had enough! That's... no! How did you transform again? Damn it! There's a hole in the ceiling!
We had to reach the final battle, no matter the cost. If we must sacrifice our lives to win, then we are ready. Our victory will bring a new dawn to the world.
So, throughout this series of episodes, the theme, the very, very, very strongest, except for that one instance, seems to represent physical strength and strength of resolve, specifically in relation to Odin and his retainer. And as such, it enhances the idea Odin presents throughout One Piece that strength is not just about muscles. Physical strength is important, but it's not the only kind of strength that's important. Luffy's fierce attack appears many more times in these episodes. I counted 12 total times. Bear with me, because there are so many, I'm going to fly through them pretty quickly. Here's a handy-dandy chart again. If you would like to pause and look at it, you may do so. I'll move on in 3, 2, 1. The first time is in episode 975 with the events of 20 years previous. Here we get the first and third sections of the theme. Odin's retainer is arguing over what to do when Shinobu shows up with their weapons, and they all choose to escape so they can return later. This one I will dwell on a little. Sorry to pick on Melody again. Honestly, I do really like her videos, but I would argue that this scene that uses the same music that was used when Zoro says nothing happened still shows strength in both instances. Not victory, but I don't think these themes are meant to portray victory. I suppose one could argue this is wisdom over strength, but in some ways it is a strength of resolve to decide to not fight right away. Sometimes making the decision to retreat when your physical strength is not enough is actually the strongest thing you can do. Luffy made that call in Sabaody with Kuma. Similarly, yes, this is a moment of defeat, but the strength of resolve of these characters will lead to their eventual strength of victory 20 years later. And Zoro still standing, even after he was defeated, in a sense, really shows he is the very, very, very strongest.
You all must survive. This country's future depends on you.
Well, we shall certainly try. You have my thanks.
But of course, this is nothing.
Odin Castle! That's our goal! Takuri! Yeah!
Strength of resolve is again shown in the next two instances of the Luffy theme. The first is in episode 977 at about 7 minutes 19 seconds. The samurai are waiting for the ships to arrive in the storm, and Kinemon says, "As long as we live, we shall never relent."
No, wait! Stop! No! Do not defy me! Oh, please, Kinemon! Ashura! Kanjuro! Raizo! Kenku! Kawamatsu! Dogstorm!
Okay, we cannot falter here. Though we may be few in number, this will allow us to sneak into their midst undetected. Then I shall plunge my sword into Kaido's neck. As long as we live, we shall never relent.
Then again in episode 993 at 12 minutes 35 seconds, when Kanjuro tries to stop the samurai and they tell him he won't stop them. The second does show a level of physical strength as well, but certainly strength of resolve too.
None of your bluster will deter us. Our lives were full of hardships, sorrows, and heartbreak. We've suffered for decades. We've crossed the sea of time, all for this moment. We will see Lord Odin's wishes out to the last detail.
The next instance is a little different and hits the nail on the head with how I believe Oda means to show strength as more than just physical strength. This is episode 995 at 15 minutes 15 seconds. Momonosuke just remembered his father telling him, "I want you to be strong, but more than that, you should be compassionate and broad-minded." Then we cut back to the present, and Momo yells his name, saying, "Momonosuke is a name that means fearless among men." As the music continues, Robin, hearing this, says, "Well spoken, you've grown strong." Even though Momo is tied up here, even though he physically can't get out of his restraints and was not physically strong enough to avoid capture, Robin is saying he's grown strong because strength does not just mean muscles or fighting prowess. I even think Odin's words to his son are not putting compassion and broad-mindedness separate from strength. He is saying it rather that there are many aspects to being strong. At least that's how I interpret that line.
Momo!
Momo is a word that means peerless among men!
Oh, you want my name?
It's Kozuki Momonosuke! Hear me now! I shall become the Shogun of the land of Wano!
Well spoken. You've grown strong.
The next few instances do relate more to physical strength. In episode 1005 at 12 minutes 31 seconds, the theme appears when Jinbei attacks the guy who earlier stopped Sanji and Luffy.
Water shot!
Jinbei, you made it!
Then in episode 1016 at 22 minutes 6 seconds, we get one of the 2 times Luffy is actually attacking to his own fierce attack music. Luffy says, "Kaido, we're gonna finish you in one shot." Powering up to Gear 4, while Kid and Law, my boy, also power up.
Surely I misheard you. Say that again.
now 4th gear!
Then the next instance, episode 1028, is the other one related to Luffy attacking. At 15 minutes 28 seconds, Luffy says, "Why the hell would we ever join you? I'll kick your ass no matter what." Then has a flashback to learning about Haki from Hyogoro in Wano, and remembers hitting Kaido with a fierce attack. Not actually attacking, but at least remembering it.
You need to pull back. It's quite simple. Haki, as you call it, coats your entire body. It can be used as invisible armor or as a weapon. And then, when you push beyond its limits, your Haki doesn't simply fortify your strength, it penetrates the enemy's body and destroys it from within. Oh, God!
All of these examples show how, while Oda's definition of strength may expand beyond the physical strength is still an important aspect of the story. It is a shonen, after all, and the choice of Luffy's fierce attack in these scenes supports that. I love this next instance of the theme, which is episode 1038 at 12 minutes 18 seconds, because it is used for a character that I don't think anyone would try to argue as being physically strong. That is Otama. Usopp just asked Otama to make a command while he has the spy person trapped so that it will be transmitted to the whole island. Otama was hiding behind a wall, clearly scared, but she finds her courage, or strength, and steps out as the music starts. This little girl, who has a crazy powerful power over animals and anthropomorphic furry fantasies, but has no real physical strength, gets to have a moment with Luffy's fierce attack, once again showing the depth of what strength truly means in One Piece.
Is that a kid?
Otama is here?
What's she doing? It's not safe for her here!
It's her! Go get him, Master!
Episode 1046 is next at about 21 minutes 39 seconds. This is during the fight between Zoro and King. Zoro has a flashback to giving up Shushui for the other sword. Kawamatsu and Hyogoro are talking about fate, with Zoro returning Shushui, and the similarities between him and Ryuma, the sword god. So this is definitely a show of physical strength here, comparing Zoro to the sword god.
There's another thing. Lord Ushimaru descended from the god of the blade Shimotsuki Ryuma. The fact that Zorojuro returned Shusui to the land of Wano feels like fate.
Then just a couple episodes later, episode 1048, at about 21 minutes 32 seconds, the theme appears in the middle of a Yamato flashback. Yamato is in jail, and the other prisoners are talking about the One Piece and Oden. The others decide to make sure Yamato can escape by sacrificing themselves. The music ends when the guy says, "We'll leave the land of Wano to you." They all die, so again, this is not much physical strength, but a sacrificial strength, much like the instance of Nothing Happened. It's the strength to give up everything, even to the point of death, to let someone else survive and carry on the legacy.
Dead or alive, there's an important role for us to play in that war. To ensure that you won't die here. 20 years is a long time. Too long for us to wait, I'm afraid.
Wait, you can't do that! My father is going to kill you for sure!
I'm not going to stay here and spend my final days rotting away. We never intended to give in to Kaido. This is the end! We'll leave the land of Wano to you.
Then a couple episodes later, episode 1051 at 17 minutes 17 seconds, is another instance of Momo finding strength. Momo is in his dragon form here, and the music kicks in as he manages to make clouds finally by concentrating and remembering who he's fighting for, connecting back to the strength of the samurai and Oden in remembering those they love as they fight. Except that Luffy is used here rather than strongest, showing that idea of the themes being used interchangeably.
Clouds! That's it. I understand!
Just like I said!
Kinemon! Take Lord Momonosuke and run away! Hurry! Please don't die. I'll come back for you.
And the final time either theme is used in the Wano arc is all the way in episode 1082, after Kaido is defeated and the Straw Hats are feasting. It comes in at about 15 minutes 48 seconds, and again relates to Momo finding his strength. Aramaki, the Navy guy, is attacking. Yamato tells Momo to call the Straw Hats. Momo says he cannot do that or ask Yamato for aid because he is the protector of Wano now. We must drive out its enemies with our own power. Even though we've established Strongest and Luffy are used pretty interchangeably, I do like that Luffy's first attack is used here, as it can be thought of as symbolic of Momo now being as fierce as Luffy himself and ready to protect the land to the death as Luffy did before him.
It's the same reason why I cannot ask you for aid. You've spent your entire life imprisoned on Onigashima, but now you can finally be free! So I will send you off properly! I've been depending on Luffy and his friends to see me through these trials. But we who remain in this country must be able to stand on our own!
So throughout the Wano arc, and taking into consideration the nothing happened scene, both Luffy's fierce attack and the very, very, very strongest are used to represent complex issues of strength beyond just the physical. At times, the themes certainly represent physical strength, even the physical endurance to take on a lot of damage and stay standing, but at other times, they represent strength of will and courage that comes from someone that may be a weak fighter, Tama and Momo as a child, for instance. Other times, the themes show strength in the face of losing, the strength to continue fighting potentially at the expense of one's own life. As such, these themes represent how strength in One Piece is not defined by winning, but defined by a willingness to give it your all and stand up for what you believe in, no matter the cost. And this is why I think these two themes help to enhance the experience of watching One Piece and Oda's original intentions. I used Melontee's video as a catch for making this one, but for the record, I didn't mean to come down hard on her. She's entitled to her opinion, and I really do love her videos for the insight into the characters and ideas of One Piece. If you haven't checked out her channel, but like One Piece, you really need to do so. I'll link that Nothing Happened video in the description, and you can use that to get over to her channel. That being said, I do think overall Toei does a good job with using music to bring out some of Oda's original ideas. Obviously, anytime something is reinterpreted from print into media, there will be changes. Interpretations have to be made, and anytime you use music, you are taking a stance of some sort that may be interpreted differently from person to person. But I do hope that the analysis in this video does give credence to the workings of these two themes and how they are used to enhance some of the main ideas of strength in One Piece. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for future videos. This is my first video about music in One Piece, and I'm happy to make more. So be sure to leave a comment if there's a particular aspect of the music you'd like to see me cover. In the meantime, if you like anime, check out this playlist, which has videos of me talking about music in a few other animes. Death Note, Code Geass, and Demon Slayer. I think that might be it. There might be another one in there. For the record, my Code Geass video is the first one I ever made, and you can tell, but I leave it up there so you all can appreciate how far I've come. And as always, thank you so much for watching.